Hey everyone, so I went to the range yesterday and I messed up my zero a little, I think. Not that it was ever professionally done, I guess you could say. I mean, I'm not a professional. But what I'm trying to do here, and which I've already done to avoid any of the filming of setup and all that kind of crap, is I re-zeroed it for 100 yards at my kitchen table. Some of you might be wondering how. Well, just through basic math. So 100 yards, okay. What I then did was measured the center between the bore and the scope, which was 1 3/4 inches. Divided that by 100, so it came out to 0.0175. And then, which is less than a 32nd of an inch, so it's almost negligible. But so I took the 1 3/4 and I mapped it out on that piece of paper at the far wall. And so you have the blue piece of tape because I needed something to see. I originally had a little marker dot there, but I could not see that through the board. So I put a piece of tape down, and then I have a red X up top, which is for the scope itself. So that is set at 1 3/4 to represent the bore center and the scope center. And then I positioned the barrel tip. I mean, I don't know exactly where you measure from, honestly, but I went from the barrel tip and I set that a yard and a half. I mean, it should have been maybe, it's such a negligible amount of distance. I ended up moving it a little further back than a yard because the scope is kind of giving me problems because it was just too close. Too close to get it as focused as possible to use it. Not to mention just looking down at it that close of a point, however you move your head, everything just dances around in the field of view. So it's kind of like, am I really zeroing this or not? But so I persisted. So I moved it back to a yard and a half, which is 54 inches. And then I persisted to line up the paper, which is plumb, with the rifle. I have my level perpendicular to the scope, and then I have another level on the barrel, just to kind of get an idea of the pitch of the barrel to help me with lining things up. So when I look down the bore, I see the blue tape on the lower blue tape on the paper, not the one up top, which is holding the paper to the wall. The lower blue tape looks like a little dot in this video. So and actually I'll show you the setup now. So what you saw is the setup, and so what I had the tip of the barrel yard and a half away from the wall, from the paper. I have the little blue square visible in the bore of the rifle, and then I centered the reticle on the red X on the paper. I tried to shoot a video as best as I can, looking into the scope to show you how it lines up. Obviously, I won't know the true effect until I take this out to the range, but it felt right. I was confident and comfortable with where I had everything. I checked it multiple times, made sure, I was being extremely still as possible as I dialed it in, and I was very careful with resetting the dials itself. Because you can take the actual knobs off without changing the setting to move the numbers on the knob back to 0, so you have a reference point for later. I think the ideal point to center to 0 rifle at is at 100 yards because it's easy to do the math back and forth from that point. If you want to go to 50 or 25 or further out from that, 200, 150, what have you. So starting at 0 at 100 is a pretty good point to be at. So I didn't want to shoot all the setup of this because, like I said, it just would have been kind of annoying, I think, to watch. So you know, we'll see how this looks out. But you know, so to do this yourself, you know, you take the center to center measurement. Once again, you take the center to center measurement, divide that by 100. If you're centering it to 100, if you're zeroing it to 100, you would then divide that number by 100, and that would be the distance you need the end of your rifle to be from the place you're focusing on. So if you're dividing it by 100, you're then figuring out how much the pitch, you know, the scope versus the rifle bore to get to 0, where that ends up being at 1 yard away. Like I said, it's negligible. It's less than a 32nd of an inch difference between this measurement and that measurement. So you're just splitting hairs at that point. I guess if you can split hairs with a rifle, you're really fucking good.